What's going down, everybody? It's your boy, That Guy Mile High, tuning back in for another reaction. This time we got the top 10 unsettling interviews with evil people. And yeah, man, without further ado, we got to give our big shout out to all of our members. We got Lynn, Ryan Parks, Token, Taylor, Matt Creeker, Jane Doe, Liz, Misty Summers, Nugget, My Hood Life, and Gary. Shout out to all the members. If you're not a member and you want to be a member, go ahead and hit that join button. And these are all members that are of the times of these recordings. So if you don't see your name just yet, don't feel no way. Just wait. You know what I'm saying? We record these in massive amounts at a time. So you may not have just been a part of it when I did this little sit down and actually recorded, but you'll be on the future ones. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and hit that join button. I love you guys, and let's jump into this video. We got top 10 unsettling interviews with evil people. Blah 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 blah. Okay, I had to get that out. Anyways, full screen. Let's go.
From Jeffrey Dahmer to Ed Camper, there are a lot of unsettling interviews with evil people circling around the internet. I'm Liz Malati, your host, and here are your top 10 unsettling interviews with evil people. In our number 10 spot, we have Charles Manson. This interview was honestly kind of fascinating to me, as all I knew about Charles Manson prior to this interview was that he was known to have been a cult leader and to have killed several people. But this interview really gave me a sneak peek into how he thinks and what his personality was kind of like, and it's kind of fascinating to watch. I'm referring to his 60 Minutes interview from 1981, where for the first time he discusses the crimes he was accused of and what it's like being in prison. Manson goes on to continuously deny that he ever killed anyone, with briefly admitting to cutting an ear off. The interview starts off with the host saying, "You were sentenced to the gas chamber until they modify the death penalty. Were you happy that was done?" To which Manson replied, "Oh, I knew I wasn't going to the gas chamber because I hadn't done anything wrong." The most unsettling part of this interview to me was honestly how every so often he would say such wise statements. I guess it was just him and his brain for many, many years in prison, but still, it's kind of hard to even fathom a killer with any kind of somewhat positive trait. You box them obviously into a category of just plain evil and forget that they have other layers, which is quite chilling. When asked about how he feels about spending his life in prison, he replied, "Well, we are all our own prisons, and we're each our own wardens, and we do our own times, and we get stuck in our own little traps, and we kind of judge ourselves the way that we do.
Bro.
You know, I can't judge anybody else. The best thing I can do is judge myself and try to live with that." In our number 9 spot,
Bro,
we
that
had...
dude was like, he was like super poetic and shit, like, what?
Jeffrey Dahmer. In an interview from 1993, Inside Edition gives us a very in-depth interview with Jeffrey Dahmer. A once chocolate factory worker became a serial killer who even ate some of his victims' body parts. How did a boy that grew up in a hard-working middle-class family turn into this monster? Well, the interview is quite definitely freaky, as he goes into depth as to what his thought process was like before all of his killings. The interviewer goes on about how he presents himself as intelligent and articulate, and that is probably why so many people did not think him to be a killer. When he refers to some of his killings, he speaks about blacking out and not remembering them, but he would photograph them to remember their physical beauty. He speaks about an altar he created with the 10 different skulls.
We need to go just dive into that Jeffrey Dahmer whole story, because I know enough of it to know that he was a very terrible person. He ate people. He was cannibalistic, and you know what I'm saying? He was an odd dude. But it would be interesting to just go do a flashback and see and watch those some of those old interviews, bro.
The people he took the lives of. He said, "I had these obsessive thoughts and desires, thoughts wanting to control them, to possess them permanently. I killed them not because I was angry with them, but because I wanted to keep them with me. As my obsession grew, I started saving body parts such as skulls." Pretty chilling and uncomfortable to watch. In our number 8 spot, we have Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy is of course known as being an American serial killer. He took the lives of at least 20 women over the course of a few years leading up to his arrest in 1979. There are many interviews with Ted, but the one I found fascinating is the one where he is still denying any of the crimes that he was being accused of. And this is an interview done in Glenwood Springs, Colorado jail on March 17th, 1977. In this interview, he's just so calm and laughing off the accusations. He's so suave and engaging, and you can truly see how he was able to get away with what he had done for so long. He had a way with words and knew how to control his emotions quite well. It's truly very fascinating to watch. It wasn't until 1989, before he was killed for his crimes, did he confess to everything that he was accused of. Coming up in our number 7 spot, we have Beth Thomas. In this extremely chilling interview with a 6-year-old, Beth Thomas was being interviewed for an HBO special in 1990, where she discussed all of the horrible things that she wanted to do to her brother and her adoptive parents. She speaks without any sign of remorse, and it's truly frightening to watch. Her big blue eyes make you think that she's not from this world. She speaks about wanting to take the life of her family and how she likes to hurt them in the night so they have to lock her door. Eventually, after this interview, Beth was diagnosed with a disease called reactive attachment disorder, a rare condition in young children characterized by failing to make healthy connections with caregivers due to being extremely hurt by their parents. Beth apparently was hurt and neglected by her biological parents. This story does have a happy ending, though. Apparently, Beth has made a full recovery after many years of therapy, and she is now an award-winning nurse and author. Gotta love a happy ending after a very frightening beginning. In our number 6 spot, we have Eileen Wuornos. Aileen is another American serial killer that was charged with the killings of 7 males. Apparently, Aileen was engaging in the selling of her body when she robbed and killed 7 of her clients. She claimed that it was self-defense all 7 times, but in an interview done for 60 Minutes Australia, Aileen gives us a sneak peek into her mind, and it is clear that it was absolutely not self-defense, as she goes on to talk about how it was only 7 people. She goes on to justify that what she did was not a horrendous crime, but since she's been betrayed, she does care to leave this planet. Another really weird thing about this interview is her new mother. After hearing about her case, some random person reached out to her and adopted her. Very suspicious and quite
People are so
weird/chilling, just as much as the interview with Aileen. Aileen was on death row for 12 years before being executed in the state of Florida. The famous movie Monster, starring Charlize Theron, is based on Aileen's life. In our number 5 spot, we have The Good Doctor. Also known as Dr. Death, Harold Shipman is arguably one of the scariest people on this list. He was a British family doctor who had gained the trust of so many patients in England. He was estimated to have killed over 200 people. He was found guilty for at least 15 killings of patients under his care and was sentenced to life in prison. This is a very brief 2-part interview of him where he honestly seems the most normal. He just looks a bit agitated that he was being filmed in the second clip, but in the first clip, he's just a regular guy that seems like he knows how to do his job pretty well, which is truly terrifying. To think that you want to put your faith in your doctors, but then who knows, there might be another Dr. Death among them that might have the intention to hurt you. What's wild to me is that he lived in a town 10 minutes away from where my mom grew up in England. So he could have been her doctor. Terrifying. In our number 4 spot, we have Israel Keyes. Israel is known for killing 11 victims, and it wasn't until the day of his death was this confirmed officially, as he left a note along with drawings of 11 skulls marked with his blood. This is an interview of him done by the FBI where they are trying to piece together everything that he's done. Apparently, the FBI interviewed him over 25 times in 8 months before he ended up taking his own life in his cell. In this interview, he seems way too normal, which seems to be a theme of all of these people today. Apparently, he did admit to a few violent crimes in 1996. Also, allegedly, he used the hair and clothes from his victims as disguises for future crimes. And one time, apparently, he partially thawed a frozen victim and posed her for a proof of life photo after she had been dead in his shed for 2 weeks while he was on a cruise with his family. Holy moly. How in the world did this guy have a job and just seemingly appear to be a normal human while this was happening in his life? I do not know. And our number 3
Going
spot,
on
we have
vacations
Ed
and
Camper.
everything.
This
Dude,
is an
wow.
interview from 1984 with another American serial killer by the name of Ed Camper. At the age of 15, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia when he killed his grandparents. He was put into a hospital for the criminally insane, but for some reason was let out by the age of 21, and that is when he went on a killing spree on a university campus in California where his mother worked. He took the life of 6 hitchhikers and then went on to take the life of his mother and best friend. In this interview, he discusses so calmly how he is someone who has been killing people for almost 20 years. He goes on to describe his thought process of how he was, quote, raging inside. I was commanding. He goes on to talk about how his mom had anger towards men and would take it out on him. He then goes on to describe that one of the factors for why he did what he did was possibly because he was emotionally impotent. Quote, I was scared to death at failing at male-female relationships. Apparently, Ed asked for the death penalty after he was found sane and guilty, however, was given 8 concurrent life sentences in prison as capital punishment was suspended in California at that time. A chilling interview that really is worth the watch. In our number 2 spot, we have Keith Hunter Jespersen. Keith is a Canadian-American serial killer that was once a truck driver. He branded himself as the happy face killer. What, was he inspired by the wet bandits from Home Alone? The theatrics right there must have showcased that he was clearly insane to some extent. But in this case, he apparently was proven to be sane. Just evil. In this video, he is making a full confession via audio to his 8 killings, and he talks about not understanding why he did them. He started drawing a smiley face symbol to tempt investigators to track him. Apparently, he once boasted about hurting a girl, and there were confessions on a wall where he wrote, I killed Tanya Bennett, one of his many victims. Pretty horrendous. In this video, we also see him in the courtroom going into detail about how he killed his victims, and it's pretty gruesome to hear. Would not recommend watching this right before bed. Or ever. In our number 1 spot, we have John Wayne Gacy. This is the notorious clown killer of the 70s and early 80s. There is an interview done with him almost 14 years after he was convicted of killing 33 times. And in this interview, he is still claiming that he is innocent and was framed. He said that he took a truth serum that has shown that he did not commit these crimes. I'm sorry, are we in Harry Potter? How did I not know that this existed? Apparently, it's a psychedelic serum that is supposed to make people more suggestible and their memories subject to reconstruction and fabrication. Interesting. Well, in any case, this interview is fascinating to see as he seems way too normal and goes on to talk about the fact that he's a good man. A family man. It's hard to believe that he committed such horrible acts until he has a little slip up saying that one of the people that they are talking about, quote, is not one of the people that I killed. Yikes. Well, this has been significantly frightening. Anyways, that's all the time I have for you today, everyone. I'm Melissa Melotti, your host. Follow me on Insta and YouTube at Melissa Melotti, and
yeah, do as she said. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Oh, and let me know which one was the craziest person in this little segment of evil people, because they was all pretty nuts, man. I mean, I gotta say, they was all pretty crazy. So, yeah, which one topped your list? Anyways, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.